Good morning. It is the second day of Vlogmas, and that means I get to open book number 2 in my bookish advent. I'm gonna open this with one hand, and they're wrapped so beautifully and so well. Let's see here. So yesterday we got Paranormalcy, and I'm a little bit scared about what I'm gonna get today. Let's find out. All right, what do we have? So we have Ruth Dudley Edwards, Publish and Be Murdered. All right, I'm gonna read the back of this. This looks like it's right up my alley. So it says, life should be sweet, but the atmosphere at the paper is poisoned by rampant egocentricity and savage ideological battles. Things are so bad that not even the appointment of Baroness Troutbeck as a columnist seems likely to bring much cheer. When the drunken deputy editor is found drowned in a bowl of punch, suspicion of foul play are brushed aside by the police. But after another death, Chief Superintendent Jim Milton takes charge of the investigation, spurred on by the relentless chivying, that's a new word for me, chivying from the Baroness. Is the murderer a conservative enraged by the paper's switch to New Labour, an ambitious journalist desperate to seek the promotion logjam? That's another new word to me. There is no shortage of motives, and in typical Dudley Edwards style, no shortage of laughs in this riotous farce. Well, that looks really fun. There are 16 movies on my top 10 Christmas movies list. And I'm gonna go with it. So the first movie on my top 10 Christmas movies list is not necessarily a Christmas movie. It is actually The Shining, the old original Jack Nicholson The Shining. And this is on my top 10 Christmas movies list because I watch it every year at Christmas, because when I would go home for Christmas for years and years and years, it would be playing on cable television, and I didn't have cable television, but my parents did, and I would watch it every year at Christmas with my sister. So The Shining is one of my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. The next movie on my list is Klaus. Klaus is a cartoon that you can watch on Netflix, and I think it's only available there. I actually just watched this movie for the very first time on Thanksgiving this year, and it shot right to the top of my favorite Christmas movies, and I will now watch it every year at Christmas. I'm not a huge fan of cartoons. There are some cartoons that I really love, like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, but as a general rule, I don't love cartoons. I don't even really know what made me turn it on Thanksgiving, but I'm so glad I did. And if you haven't watched Klaus and you have Netflix, you should definitely give it a try. The next movie on my list of favorites is About a Boy. About a Boy is the story of a man whose wealth is built on his father's legacy of having written a very popular Christmas carol that gets played over and over and over. So he has a bitter feeling towards Christmas. And the boy and single mother who live next door to him, who kind of open up his world and teach him to be a better person. I love this movie. This might be a little bit controversial. This edition of Little Women. I do love the new Little Women, the most recent with Saoirse Ronan, but this one will always have a place in my heart, ranked much higher than any other version of Little Women, and I don't care what anybody says about its difficulties. It is, for me, an excellent Christmas movie. I won't do a synopsis of Little Women because most people know what it's about. Next on my list is another Susan Sarandon movie, which may not immediately jump to your mind as a Christmas movie, and that is Stepmom. This is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, let alone one of my favorite Christmas movies. And this is a Christmas movie, believe it or not. Think about that final series of scenes where Susan Sarandon, knowing that she is very ill with cancer, is working to make Christmas gifts for her 2 children who she fears she may leave behind before Christmas hits. So just a beautiful, beautiful story of acceptance, moving on, what it means to be alive, how we can best love each other. My next movie is Last Holiday. In this movie, which I probably don't need to do a synopsis for either, but I'll keep it really brief. In this movie, Queen Latifah feels that she is about to die because of some news that a doctor has given her. So she decides to live before she dies, spends a great deal of money to go to the chateau of her dreams because her favorite chef is there. She's quite a foodie herself, and she changes the lives of many people around her while deciding to live before she dies. The next one is definitely a classic. Everybody knows this movie. Not gonna give a synopsis of it. One of my absolute favorites is definitely Christmas Vacation. When that squirrel jumps out of that tree, I die every single time. And I can't even tell you how many times I say, I don't know, Margot, in my everyday life. Next is another classic, although more recent, and that is The Holiday. This movie I tend to watch pretty early on in the season. It just puts me in the right spot. I love the kind of life swapping that happens, and the Jack Black character in this is just so adorable. Definitely just a nice feel-good Christmas romance. Another nice, but maybe less feel-good, more funny romance that I really love at Christmas time is Surviving Christmas. And I'm sure everybody is familiar with this one too. In this movie, Ben Affleck has to pay people to let him have Christmas with a family in his old childhood home. And much like with many of my Christmas books from yesterday's video, love and mayhem ensue. Another absolute classic, which everyone knows and loves. Christmas with the Cranks. The Cranks have decided that because their daughter is grown and living overseas, they are going to give themselves a holiday vacation instead of the normal things that they do for Christmas. They are not going to celebrate Christmas. For one thing, it's just too hard for them because their daughter won't be with them. And for another, they feel they deserve something a little bit for themselves. This puts the entire community in an uproar when they refuse to do things that they have always done, such as put out a Christmas calendar, put up a Christmas snowman on their roof, and also buy a Christmas tree to support boys group. I don't know what group it was. But they refuse to do the things they've always done. And then they get a call. Actually, their daughter is coming home. So they've alienated themselves. Will the community come together to help them? And not so much romance, but a lot of mayhem ensues. The next movie on my list is Untamed Heart. This may not be thought of as a traditional Christmas movie. It is the story of Marissa Tomei falling in love with Christian Slater. Christian Slater is the weird, unknowable, socially awkward dishwasher at her diner, and he kind of questionably is maybe a stalker. But because he's a stalker, he ends up saving her from a precarious situation in the middle of the night, and so she is prompted to get to know him, kind of pull him out of his shell, and everything culminates. Everything kind of starts with a Christmas tree that he puts into her bedroom. The more I think about this, the creepier it is, but it's really sweet in the movie and I love it, so don't judge. Oh, the next one is my absolute favorite. I watch this all year long. It is not strictly a Christmas movie, but it is a winter movie and it makes me laugh every single time. That is New in Town. New in Town is the story of Renee Zellweger, who is a high-performing Florida businesswoman who gets sent to Minnesota to kind of sell off a company that her corporation doesn't want anymore. And she falls in love with the people there. Romance and mayhem ensue. I remember Mama is one of my very favorites. This is not a Christmas movie. I don't know why I feel like, I mean, I think they have a Christmas scene, but I always watch this at Christmas time. And I think I must have seen it for the first time at Christmas time because it is definitely not a Christmas movie. It takes place over the course of a lot of time. And it's just delightful. It is the story of an immigrant family. It's the story of mothers and daughters. Yeah, it's just lovely. Another classic that I watch every year at Christmas that's not strictly Christmas, it actually takes place over the course of an entire year, but it has a very famous Christmas scene in it, and that is Meet Me in St. Louis. Meet Me in St. Louis is the story of Judy Garland and her family, romance and mayhem, and also Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is sung in this movie. Next is Bridget Jones's Diary, which just cracks me up all the time. This may not immediately be thought of as a Christmas movie, I don't think, but it is definitely a Christmas-based movie. So much of the happiness happens during Christmas, and I'm not going to give a synopsis of this. Everybody knows Bridget Jones's Diary, one of my absolute favorite Christmas movies. And finally is the Christmas movie of all Christmas movies, in my opinion, and that is A Christmas Story. I also love the live version that was put on TV here in the States a few years ago, and I do have that digitally, and I do watch that as well. But this one, that Ralphie right there, he's gonna shoot those beautiful eyes out. I watch this all the time. This movie cracks me up. It will never, ever, ever stop cracking me up. I will never grow tired of it. I will never tire of that family. Mama's Little Piggy, the major reward. Every time I get a package and it says fragile on it, I have to say fragile. That must be Italian. It is part of my culture. So those are my 16 top 10 Christmas movies of all time. What are your favorite Christmas movies of all time? Have yourself a merry little Vlogmas, and I will see you tomorrow. Have yourself a merry little Vlogmas.